Hi guys, this is a foundational video that's going to help establish some things you need to know from this point forward. So take some notes and be prepared to use this information in class. This will be the first part of a two-part series. We're going to start off talking about European settlements. Three main countries to consider: Spain, France, and England. So let's talk about Spain. Spain, we want to think. When we think of Spain, think about the conquistadors. They will establish themselves in Central and South America. No one's the people that were in North America before the Spanish got there didn't stand much of a chance against the conquistadors. They were very strong warriors. They had horses, which were never seen before. They were dressed in armor, and the indigenous people didn't stand much of a chance, especially because they couldn't stand up to the diseases that was brought over. But that's another story. So Spain dominates in this area. Columbus starts off in 1492 by quote unquote discovering the New World, but this begins a lot of trade and exploration between Spain and North America. As you can see, he'll make several trips to North America, and it's kind of noteworthy. He never really makes it into North America. He's mostly here in the Bahamas and the Caribbeans, but he does establish this land for Spain. Uh, other Spanish explorers will follow him. In the 1500s, there are a lot more. One of them noteworthy is Cortez. He'll defeat the Aztec Empire. He'll take Central America. Pizarro, Ponce de Leon establish the Spanish Empire in Florida. That's what the Spanish Empire looks like by the start of the American Revolution. You can see it's huge. Again dominates South America and Central America and parts of North America. So that's the Spanish Empire. But they by the American Revolution they are a bit on the decline, not as strong as they were. Let's talk about France. Um, France will claim land in what's today Canada and all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. So they had a lot of land in North America. When we think about France, a lot of them were fur trappers, and they made made a living off trapping fur. Now, rather than conquering the indigenous people, they set up a system of trade, trading guns and knives and pots and pans and buttons for fur. And so they used they had a trade between Native Americans and themselves for fur. It is a thriving economy, this fur trapping. And one of the major one was major furs they went after were the beaver pelts. Now, beaver pelts were used for all kinds of things, but one thing they used for was for hats. Now, when you think of beaver hats, this probably isn't the type of hat you would think would be made from beaver fur, but it was. That's what it was. It was the beaver fur was used to. They kind of crushed it down into like a felt, and then they could make these fancy hats. And so, again, a lot of people wore them, and it was a thriving economy until they started running out of beaver, and people started wearing silk hats, and so the end of the beaver trade started coming to an end. But at its peak, what we found was that the land that Great Britain, that France claimed was a lot of time in conflict with Great Britain. So there were a lot of struggles between these two countries. One of the major ones was eventually will turn into what's called the French and Indian War, where the French and the groups of Indians and the British and a group of Indians, along with the colonists, would fight each other over the land. And eventually the British will win and they'll kick France out. But we'll talk more about that too. All right, so French colonies, you can see from this map, extend from what we refer to, well, from today, what is today Canada, all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. So it's quite extensive. And again, they're going to lose all of that eventually after the French and Indian War. So Great Britain. Now, Great Britain, we talk about Great Britain, our history is dominated by Great Britain history. We are basically come from an English colony. That's what it was. The 13 colonies were this group of colonies on the east coast of what is today the United States. We refer to them as the 13 colonies. The very first one established was in Jamestown, 1607. Now, this is really a group of men that went to Jamestown to start a business, and they really kind of thought they were going to find gold like the Spanish did, but they didn't. So they had to find other ways to make a living. This was a very difficult time for them. A lot of them didn't survive. They weren't farmers. They really weren't explorers, and a lot of them just simply didn't make it. But eventually they will hit on tobacco. The Native Americans will show them how to grow tobacco, and the tobacco that they grew was better than any tobacco that the English had. And so this is where they made most of their profits. But now they're sent to Jamestown with the approval of King James, and he sends them what's called he charters them. He gives them the ability to go there. So when they go there, they have the approval of King James I, and so they look at themselves as sort of an extension of Englishmen. The English laws, English customs. Or simply follow them there, and so they still consider themselves Englishmen, even though they're 3,000 miles away. All right, so now Plymouth. We'll talk about another settlement in North America, and this was the Puritans. Now, the Puritans, interesting about them, they were a group of people that split from the Anglican Church, the Church of England. And at the time, the Church of England and the government of England were really entwined. And so if you split from the church, this is really an act of treason. So these Puritans are separatists. They left the Church of England and had to leave England, and they went to the Netherlands for a while, but the Netherlands was just too liberal for them, and they ended up going to the New World. And they thought they would sail to Virginia, and where Jamestown was established, and that would help them out. But they got blown off course, and they end up in Massachusetts, and in what's with Plymouth. Now you might remember these as the guys with the big buckles and the hats. The difference between this group that was sailing to Plymouth was, one, they did it for religious reasons, but also that there were men and women here that sailed. Now, when they get there, they're not chartered by the king. The king did not give them an approval, so they had to create some laws that were a bit different, and they create what's called the Mayflower Compact, which we're going to take a look at, because again, it's laws and forms of government that are early American history. All right, so there they are. That must have been some sort of Thanksgiving. All right, so that's the 13 colonies. Now, the next segment we'll talk about how the colonies grew and the regions that they grew in, and then that'll lead us into more ideas about self-government. But for now, that's all we've got. Thank you.